we're going to dive into how Dr. Squatch is building customer loyalty and retention at scale. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to our speakers to give a quick introduction. We'll start with Avi first.
Hey everybody, I'm Avi Jhingan. I'm a senior product manager at Dr. Squatch. Dr. Squatch. At Dr. Squatch, we make natural, high-performance personal care products for men. So products like soap, deodorant, body wash, shampoo, conditioner, and so on. Here at the company, I focus on developing and implementing features and functionalities around customer retention, and that's in partnership with our retention marketing, merchandising, and our lifecycle teams. Pass it over, Simone.
Thanks. I'm Simone Marisot-Vermette. I'm a principal CSM at Postscript. I help brands figure out the best strategies to get the most they can out of their SMS program. Before I got into tech, I worked at a website, so I've been on the brand side too. And before that, I owned a brick and mortar clothing store. So a lot of the strategy I talk about really comes from having conversations with real people in a store.
Awesome. It's great to have you both here today. So let's go ahead and jump right in and just set the stage a little bit. So Dr. Squatch has built a super engaged, loyal customer base. So Avi, what's been your approach to building those lasting relationships and ultimately driving repeat purchases?
Yeah, for sure. I would say there are two primary things. The first one is trying to deliver value at every stage of the customer journey, like everywhere we possibly can. And the second is really just being and having an authentic brand identity, like really staying true to who we are. The journey part of it, I mean, that begins when somebody joins our lifecycle subscriber base. So, SMS or email. Obviously, we've got a welcome offer, which we've really rigorously optimized through A/B testing to just make sure that it resonates with our audience. That whole welcome flow, though, really does emphasize like brand marketing. So storytelling, community building, and really trying to clearly answer like why shop Dr. Squatch. I mean, personal care is a very big, industry vertical. So really trying to create that differentiation and talk about the brand there too. Throughout the rest of the journey, we try to meet customers where they are, which is something that we are all always trying to do, right? So communicating the right message at the right time, using segmentation, dynamic segmentation, and just trying to get aligned to people's preferences and behaviors. The thing is that when I talk about segmentation, what I really mean is that it's not necessarily about targeting specific segments of people. I mean, it can be about that, but what I mean is that we have like an overall segmentation strategy. We apply the same kind of approach across email and SMS. An example being that like our audience has a really high affinity for new product drops. We're releasing new products, honestly, almost every week. So we send launch messages to our broadest audience to maximize awareness, regardless of engagement level. For any follow-up reminder messaging, we shift to a really highly engaged audience. And those segments that we create really require two forms of engagement. That allows us to sort of circumvent issues of, let's say, faulty open rate data or, other things. And that way we can really sort of preserve high deliverability and keep spend efficient. Now, really quickly, just before I finish, to pivot back to the value side, right? In the interest of delivering value, we found that loyalty is a really effective part at bringing customers back and deepening their connection with the brand. After the first purchase, we immediately introduce customers to our loyalty program and try to encourage that kind of engagement. There are, of course, a lot of loyalty service providers now, so I really think it's table stakes to have a program. You can iterate it over time, but I think you have to be able to provide that value pretty quickly out of the gate.
Yeah, absolutely. So how has that approach maybe evolved as the brand has scaled?
For sure. Yeah, several aspects of our strategy have evolved as we've scaled. I was talking about the need to kind of be authentically ourselves, and that's really deepened even more over the last year. We've made a more deliberate shift from primarily like middle of funnel performance marketing to more top of funnel brand centric marketing, like kind of throughout the entire customer experience, and talking a lot about storytelling, long-term connection, using like really kind of important cultural figures to bridge those gaps between like our brand, what we're doing, and the story we're trying to tell people and people that people know. That's become really increasingly important for us as our retail footprint has expanded. So you got greater accessibility, right? But that also really means we need to stress our brand's core identity and show customers why Dr. Squatch is special. This for the new customers, but then also like why we're worth coming back to for previous and current customers. I think especially through the direct to consumer channel. Um, Secondly, on the approach evolving, I would say we've really built a strong A/B testing cadence, especially in partnership with Simone's team. Like typically we run like 5 to 10 tests a month through various channels, SMS, obviously included. And that really allows us to sort of refine what works for our audience because that's also evolving over time. Like to my point about like the performance marketing versus brand centric shift, like we also want to be testing around that, right, as the business itself is changing. Yeah, interestingly, we found that there are industry trends or the way that we talk about certain things regarding, let's say, like personalization, that do work, seem like they work well for other brands, but don't necessarily translate as effectively for us. I can talk more about those later. Um, but yeah, those are, I think, two core things. And just really the key takeaway is like we're just trying to be as consistent in our brand identity, no matter how we're sort of executing against it. And that really has helped us, I think, maintain like a connection with our customers, even though we've got new channels, new markets, so on.
Great, yeah. So question for both of you, but we'll start with Avi. So you talked about SMS and, let's get into kind of some of the channels and tactics that are driving the strongest results for when it comes to bringing customers back to your site and shopping with you again.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say like driving customers to start a subscription remains our most effective strategy for encouraging like repeat purchases, and it's the most accretive LTR by customer cohort. But like I said earlier, beyond that, the loyalty program is a really powerful retention lever. Um, Again, with this whole retail footprint expansion, like as our retail presence grows and our products become more readily available, we like need to use that loyalty program as a differentiating factor. We need to be able to provide value there, right? So we've seen a lot of like success with loyalty engagement through, our email and SMS messages, personalization there, especially those that kind of combine things like redemption reminders with like sense of urgency or upcoming expiration messaging. Like we can then reach customers directly there with targeted messaging that would drive action, right? Because you don't want to lose out on something that you've, obviously it's taken time to kind of earn. Um, so we do use both of those channels for performance marketing, but there's like this combination of like the subscription offering through there and a compelling loyalty program. And as we promote those through the direct channels, right, that's a really strong foundation, I would say, for customer retention and lifetime revenue.
Absolutely. So Simone, so for some of the brands that you work with, what are you seeing work best for them when it comes to encouraging those repeat purchases?
Number one thing I always encourage is engaging in two-way communication, really to use the full power of SMS. It shouldn't just be a one-sided blasting people with information, but you can ask people questions and get information out of them that you can then use for segmentation. So engaging in some sort of two-way conversation, there's a number of different ways you can do that in Postscript, both with, we offer something called SMS sales. We have a new AI personal shopper. We can set up campaigns that have organized responses, but all of those are in like, there are ways to get further engagement from people. They get more attached to your brand. They're more likely to make a second purchase. Of course, loyalty programs, also leaning in on segments. And so offering specific offers to people depending on where they're at. I was talking to a brand, they were talking about whether or not they should exclude recent purchasers from letting them know about a product launch. It's like, no, you should include them, but just segment it out so that their message speaks to the fact that, hey, we know you just made a recent purchase, but we really wanted you to know about this new product we just came out with. So speaking to where people are at. And then I would also have to mention cashback. It's a great tool for just setting people up to make that next purchase to come back and claim their store credit and shop again.
Absolutely. I love what you said about the two-way conversations. I think that's so important for brands to connect on a deeper level. And I think that sets us up nicely for the next question here. So Simone, what makes a personalized experience actually effective and not just surface level personalized?
Absolutely. So the more you can understand about where your shoppers are at, so asking a question like, are you shopping for yourself or someone else, is going to help you fine tune how you speak to them and even like how you follow up with them as they sort of make their way from becoming a new subscriber to actually becoming a customer. And so learning like what they're looking for, or asking, if it's scents and soaps, like asking what kind of scent, are you a woodsy person or a floral person or a beach person? If you're selling shoes, are you, or sneakers, are you working out at the gym or are you at the beach or in the woods? So that you can help direct their experience. And also, as you launch new products or other things go on sale, you also have that information and you can circle back like, hey, we know you run in the woods. We have either this new product or this other product that just went on clearance that you're going to want to know about.
Absolutely. So Avi, how are you maybe applying that same thinking or a similar approach to personalization at Dr. Squatch?
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's interesting because like the way that I think we think about personalization and very much I think aligned with to what Simone was saying was like the part that makes personalization really effective is doing what's right for your specific audience. And that's kind of the point, like Simone, the point you were just making about like meeting people where they're at, right? The way we apply it though is I was alluding to this earlier, just through testing, right? Like our lifecycle team takes a really multi-phased approach to A/B testing, and we're trying to like figure out all of the tactics that would drive incremental lift. The interesting part about all of this is that sometimes we found that there are certain personalization trends in the industry that don't have as much of an impact on our customers. For example, we A/B tested like a basic flow setup, no conditional splits or dynamic content, um, against a really personalized path that used targeted paths and like individualized emails based on customer data. That test ran for multiple weeks, multiple flows. The results were consistent across the board that the audience engaged more and drove higher revenue recipient rates with the simpler non-personalized flow. That was really surprising. And that was, there was some of that was SMS, a lot of it was email, but that was surprising just because the industry's trend towards like heavy personalization in email content, right? But also when we talk about like doing things like for your audience at the right time and right place, that's also where I think Simone is exactly right. That like there are instances where those personalization things, like elements of personalization, actually do drive higher revenue. So it's a very difficult kind of like game to play to be in between these two things, like when to be personalized and when not to be personalized. The tests that have been really insightful recently are tests around like sale and promotional messaging, rather than when we don't have any kind of site event going on. So I was talking a lot earlier about like brand marketing, and like when do we want to lean into brand? When do we want to lean into just direct promotions, right? Like there have been, even though we've been leaning so much into brand, like as a brand and like brand centric marketing, there, we've seen consistently like these really strong results that shows that like straightforward copy actually outperforms messages that also try to incorporate our brand voice, which is interesting, right? Because it's sort of like challenging the assumption around like the intimacy of SMS, but we do also know that SMS is the most like intimate channel that you really can't have, right? So it's more about like it's less about that and it's about like how do you act in context? How do you like communicate in context? Is a really interesting sort of learning. So personalization is like totally a challenge, but there are lots of successes that we found. Actually, to what Simone was saying earlier, there are certain strategies that work really well. The SMS sales experience actually that we've been using through Postscript is really fantastic because you connect customers with like a live sales rep via text, right? And then you kind of guide them towards a purchase. That is arguably the most personalized thing you can do, right? You're like literally talking to somebody live. And that holdout group testing has consistently shown double-digit conversion lifts compared to like a standard automated flow that we might otherwise run. So like all of that is to say, I think the key lesson that we've learned and seem to continue to be learning is that like effective personalization isn't really about like doing all things in one particular way, right? I mean, that's inherent, I think, into the idea of personalization, but or even like following industry trends. It's like figuring out what resonates specifically with your customers when you need to do like lean in certain ways versus others, and just doing that through testing. So yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
can I add on
Mhm.
just a little
Yeah,
bit
go for
there?
it.
Because I love everything that Avi's saying, but I also feel like if you're watching this and you're thinking, but I'm one person,
Yeah.
like I don't have a Dr. Squatch team, like, whoo, how do I do all that testing? So lean in on AI. We have several new AI features that will run what we call infinity tests, and will actually, there's an insight button after the infinity test that will tell you like this phrase resonated with people, or direct message worked really well here, or the more branded message worked really well. So AI is your friend if you want to do this sort of testing, but you're a one or a two person size shop.
Totally love that.
Absolutely. Great. So let's talk a little bit about customer feedback. So, I'm a little biased over here at Okendo, but obviously, customer feedback is so valuable for brands. So, Avi, how is Dr. Squatch using customer feedback to better understand customers, elevate that post-purchase experience?
Yeah, totally. So I mean, we to Simone's point, like we're lucky enough to have these like dedicated teams like focused on collecting, analyzing customer feedback to really help us like, continuously improve products, overall CX, right? The core idea there is just like you have to treat feedback as like a strategic asset, and you have to use it cross-functionally. You got to influence like everything from product dev to website optimizations, even in your marketing, right? How it's actually kind of manifested over time. Um, it's directly driven several major improvements across our business. One is that it informed our decision to make modifications to our like ops infrastructure. So that really significantly reduced our like click to delivery time, improved the overall fulfillment experience. Second is that it's shaped how we approach like future product launches. So like limited editions, right? We've gotten feedback that helps guide decisions around like formulation and secondary packaging, so on. And then it's also helped us enhance like like website clarity and functionality. So like gathering site reviews, doing a lot of surveying on site through like our account experience, or even just popping into like our collections pages, things like that, just to try to understand if customers are having as seamless of a shopping experience as we think they are. Um, we're on Okendo reviews, and one thing that's really exciting about that and being able to use it is its attribute functionality. Our consumer insights team they already do like the hard work of parsing apart, and traditionally have done the hard work of parsing apart and coding things, right? Like you review a bunch of reviews, you like recode information that's in that review as like, this property or this quality, right? But they do that for things like scent strength or product performance, right? Just based on the consumer feedback we're getting. But to be able to sort of natively quantify that out of the box is a really ideal scenario for us, like across multiple different product categories or new launches. Um, Honestly, this is something that I was thinking about earlier. We don't even do this yet, but like attributes related to new partnership launches, right? Like quantifying like excitement upon getting that order, right? And or rating its secondary packaging, like embedding that into the review process, and to have that information available to us internally is like really great. So I think just all that is to say that like we you should solicit feedback, right? Solicit it, implement it. And by doing that for us, we've been able to create like a cycle where customers do feel heard. We can see tangible improvements in certain launches, in certain, operational elements, website elements. And of course, over time, you're just helping to develop stronger loyalty to the brand because people feel heard.
Yep, absolutely. People want to feel heard, they want to feel listened to, and they're going to come back to the brands that are doing that because there's so many brands to shop from.
Yeah.
Great. So Simone, let's talk a little bit more about SMS. So how are brands using SMS beyond just transactional messages? How is it like, finding that right balance between driving sales and nurturing relationships?
I think a big opportunity for a lot of brands is to think about that post-purchase, especially that first purchase communication. A lot of brands, when they first are setting up their SMS program, there's a lot of emphasis on getting people from subscribing to making purchase number one. They think about abandonment flows and welcome flows and things like that. But there's so much potential after that first purchase is made, immediately, right? Like you get out your credit card, you make the purchase, that's going to hit your credit card statement probably before the shipping happens. So sometimes people have buyer's remorse, right? So you can send messages that keeps them at that excited level for whatever is now coming in the mail. Maybe it's new scents of soap, like letting them know, like, thank you for your purchase. We're getting your package ready for shipment. If it's a product that needs some sort of care, maybe you send care tips, but you can keep building that relationship after that purchase. And then you're just setting them up to like be a loyal customer and make future purchases.
Yep, absolutely. Great. So I'll toss a follow-up question over to Avi. So what does that post-purchase experience look like for Dr. Squatch, and how are you thinking about keeping customers engaged after the purchase?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that it manifests in a few different ways. So, of course, we've got like I said, after the welcome flow, right? It really focuses on like brand education, right? But we want to make sure that like we're addressing everything that a customer might need through that post-purchase journey. So like we offer many different like touch points, right? Obviously you've got like email, order tracking, right? SMS, like the whole suite of like optionality is I think really critical, because we keep talking about this idea of like meeting customers where they're at, right? So it's one of those things where like, yeah, you have to have somebody you have to have like resources to manage the channels, but you want to ensure that nobody feels like they can't get what they need, right, out of like that post-purchase customer experience. So I think it's a critical thing to have everything available to a customer. I mean, it's kind of the expectation that's been set, right, by the industry. But as for like content wise and stuff, there are certain things that we do. Like for example, if you purchase like a certain product, right, we'll try to lean in on like education around that product, right? If you're subscribing, we'll lean in a little bit more educationally on subscribing and follow up on like how that subscription experience was, right? So a little bit to the personalization and segmentation stuff we were talking about earlier. But it's tough. It's tough to like manage all of these different kinds of like potential touch points, right? So go wide, but also go deep is not the easiest thing to do, but you try.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great. So last question I have for you both, and then we will do any Q&A. So anyone has questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. But we'll start with Simone. So what's one underrated SMS tactic or strategy that you think brands should be using more of to drive retention and long-term growth?
Okay, I'm going to try to sneak in two, actually. I have two
Great.
favorites. One is something we refer to as the mini quiz pop-up. If you have not tested a mini quiz pop-up, highly recommend. So you ask a relevant question as someone is subscribing for email and SMS, whether that's like, are you shopping for yourself or someone else, or where do you plan on using your new running sneakers? And there's some evidence that if you ask the right question, even though it's to some marketers, it's like, oh, I am adding an extra step to the pop-up. But if you're asking the right question, it actually can boost your opt-ins because people are then thinking they're going to get a more relevant shopping experience. I had a hair care brand that we work with, and every time we asked, is your hair long, short, curly, thin? They had more opt-ins when they asked the question than when they didn't. You can then use that information to personalize the welcome message, to recommend specific products. You can use that in your post-purchase follow-ups, like you came looking for such and such. How did we do? Did you find what you need? There's so much potential in unlocking that zero-party data. So Number one, highly recommend the mini quiz pop-up. And then the other one I mentioned before, but it is using AI infinity testing. There's so much that AI can do in terms of like understanding all the results of testing and then deliver it up to you. Those are insights that you can use in other places in your SMS. You can use them in email. You can use them in other parts of your marketing when you start to understand what's resonating with people. So the power of AI can make a small team of 1 or 2 people really get a lot done.
Great. So Avi, same question to you, an underrated SMS tactic or strategy.
Yeah, for sure. I just really quickly, I want to also like totally agree with Simone on the zero party data element of this. Like I'm trying to just like as a retention PM and marketer, like I'm trying to embed as much of that in the customer experience as we can. Um, just given that like one-to-one personalization, like true one-to-one personalization, right, it's tough. But there are technological limitations. There's a lot of complexity involved, and that isn't necessarily changing due to like privacy laws, like browser changes and so on. So I love that because like getting that data can be so good for the customer experience and for the brand experience, like what we want to show on site. Just wanted to echo that. Um, so I think comprehensively testing all aspects of SMS campaigns is surprisingly underrated. I think a lot of people, a lot of brands like understand that A/B testing is beneficial, but not everybody applies it rigorously across all of the elements that you can test. So like timing, frequency, copy, targeting, landing pages. And we've talked about this throughout the call, right? SMS is arguably like the most intimate marketing channel. So like the more you can optimize around that, I think it can be a really good thing. And so I think use the resources that Simone said, right? Like these sort of like AI tools that are available to you. Because now what used to take a lot more people to be able to do is just it's gotten much easier. The other thing I'll say, I also want to throw in one more thing. The two-way messaging, right? And this is related to the zero party data thing, so I'm not technically, I'm on track. The We have multiple flows that are dedicated to asking our SMS subscribers like these open-ended questions to encourage that two-way communication, right? That's an engagement tactic, but it also really reinforces the benefit of staying subscribed to SMS marketing and providing that like unique personalized shopping experience. So like we have these SMS sales flows, I was talking about SMS sales earlier, right? That are composed of like these prompting questions, don't have any promotional info or even like a link to our site, which is kind of silly. But it's like a super casual tone. It's like you were texting with a friend, right? It's like, are you still interested in getting something? Let me know. Or like, yo, it's Chad. Like, it's been a while since you were like last shopping with us. Like, what's holding you back, right? So those are sent to an engaged audience, and they actually tend to be some of our top performing automations on a revenue per recipient basis. So this combo of like, two-way communication, testing, collecting data, it's really, I think, instrumental in like driving long-term growth for the SMS program.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. Well, we are coming up on time. I just want to thank you, Avi and Simone, again for joining us today, sharing some really great insights.